You ever see some kind of object that you could only see from far away and it looks perfect, and you finally get the chance to get up close with it, and you can see all the little details and cracks and maybe even some graffiti on it or something, and it just looks awful? That's kind of what we're doing with this, only with people. What did your crush do that killed your interest? Story 1. Had a crush on a girl at work for a few months, but I heard she was interested in my friend there, so I tried to keep my distance as it seemed he shared her interest. Long story short, she confessed to returning my feelings instead and insisted that everyone was misunderstanding her feelings toward my friend. Very shortly after we started a relationship, she casually mentioned plans to go to a concert with my friend. Just the two of them. I mentioned that he had probably seen it as a date and told her I was fine with her going, as long as she let him know we were in a relationship. Shortly after that, I hear that the two of them are going bowling together for his birthday. Again, just the two of them. Again, she acts naive to the implications, as these were plans they'd made long ago as friends. Again, I said I was fine with it as long as everyone was respectful. But what made me lose interest was when she became very sick and I took her home. She absolutely refused to let me go up to her apartment with her despite being deliriously sick. I chalked it up to the fever, and we agreed I would be back in the morning with homemade soup, tea, etc. So I go back and wait, and wait, and wait. I waited and called intermittently for hours. She had told me her roommate was an alcoholic and dangerous, so I became increasingly worried. In my mind, my girlfriend was alone and vulnerable in a space with a dangerous man. I kept calling every now and then, so I was quite freaked out by the time she finally called back almost a full day later. She completely dismissed everything, saying she was just sleeping and that I was crazy. I sensed one too many red flags, and before I had the chance to break things off, she pulled the "I'm not ready for a relationship" card, and we called it quits. Less than 2 weeks later, she was giving my friend hickeys, but still insisting there was nothing going on. I noped out of there completely at that point. Come to find out, her dangerous roommate was her longtime boyfriend, whom she had been living with for a year and a half. She had also been stringing my friend along for months before we dated and made her move immediately after we broke up. He had zero relationship experience, and she's very beautiful, so I don't hold much against him. He was more respectful of our relationship than she was. Sounds like she's trying to develop her manipulation skills. Do you think she deliberately tried to keep as many guys on the hook at the same time as possible? Or do you think she was more naive and just naturally didn't want to break things off with guys? It kind of sucks that she couldn't just be honest with everybody. Were any of these guys giving her money? Story 2. There was this one guy I had a crush on in middle school. He was a grade above me. I thought maybe he liked me too, but never had the guts to talk to him. Years passed, and I had already graduated high school 2 years prior. He messaged me on Facebook asking to take me out on a date. I said yes, and we went ice skating. Everything was going well. We decided to meet up at a second place, but decided to take our own cars. I don't remember why. His car battery ended up dying on him, so he called me and asked if I could give him a jump start. Of course I would. So I had to go home to get the jumper box my dad had, because my cables are terrible, and then drive back. He ended up canceling early and just wanted to go home because he was worried his car wasn't going to make the drive. He was also probably a little embarrassed, both understandable. He said we should set up a second date, though, and I agreed. Second date comes around and was having a good time until it started to get cold and he gave me his jacket. I thought things were going very well. We sat in my car and just talked for a few hours, until he brought up a couple subjects that I, and literally any sane person, definitely saw as large red flags. He brought up politics and learned that we both have different views, which I don't mind, but every time I would counterclaim his claim, he would get angry and would look at me like I was stupid and tried to make it into an argument versus a discussion. Whenever I talked about my views, he would just have that gross narcissistic snide smirk slapped on his face. You know the one. Also, trigger warning, S.A. And then he later brought up the fact that his friend went to prison for violating children. He said his friend was innocent and that his friend would never do such a thing, and that both little girls and their entire families were lying and made it all up. Yeah, no. I didn't know what to say or do, so I pretty much ended the date right there with some excuse and never talked to him again. Those red flags seem to have cropped up extremely quickly. Sounds like everything was going really smoothly right up until that point. I'm pretty sure it wasn't about the different political views, but about his attitude. He seemed really defensive about his views and that they were the right views. And how dare anyone have a different opinion that they would actually try and defend? That doesn't fly very well. Which leads into his attitude towards his friend's actions. Just glad she got that part out of the way so she could end the relationship right there. Story 3. Almost 2 years ago, during my senior year of high school, one of my closest friends since freshman year, female, told me she had feelings for me, and she knew I had gained somewhat feelings for her recently at the time. She told me if I was willing to wait for her to be ready. I said sure, but truly I didn't, which honestly I just didn't want to be rude and just say no. After I had graduated, she invited me to her dad's house, who was ex-military with minor PTSD, which I made sure to be cautious about. After spending the day carving pumpkins with her, talking to her family and even her dad, which I honestly didn't mind doing so and thought he was cool, on the way back home, he talked to me about my music taste and stuff I was into, even inviting me to come hang out with him at a dirt bike event 2 weeks from that day. She was present for this. For 2 weeks straight afterwards, she had ghosted me after I had sent her memes and tried talking to her like usual. She ended up telling our friend group we had a falling out, which I wasn't even aware of, and tried making it seem like I was obsessed with her, which I clearly wasn't. Once I had told my friends my side of the story, they understood what she said didn't sound right. I even ended up talking to her directly as well about it because I'm not scared to confront someone about problems. She told me that she felt I was ignoring her dad and that his PTSD was kind of acting up after meeting me, putting the blame on me after she literally witnessed me having a really good conversation with her dad. Even had him laughing, inviting me to come hang out with him before Thanksgiving. I lost so much interest and stopped talking to her afterwards. Not even today I associate myself with her. I think she was actually jealous of the attention her dad was getting from this guy. I think this guy was building up a better rapport with the dad than anybody had in the past. She was jealous of that and made up these whole stories about having a falling out and him being obsessed in order to try and save some kind of face. Or maybe she doesn't like a guy that gets along with the dad. Maybe she likes a kind of rebel guy. Story 4. Hey, one I can definitely answer. Fresh out of high school, I started meeting up with my friends every couple of weeks at a buffet, and one of the girls who worked there was 110% my type. Even now, she's probably in my top 3% of women I've seen physically. Anyhow, I never really talked to her much, but thought she was super cute. At a special Christmas version of the buffet, she actually came up and gave me a big long hug, which as a guy who already found her attractive, it gave me the idea she was interested. Next time I came, she was serving my table, and for the tip, no idea how bad of etiquette this is, probably awful, I gave her a $10 bill, reasonable for the meal price for all of us, folded into a rose, with my number on a sheet of paper saying something along the lines of, "No pressure, but if you'd like to talk sometime, go ahead and hit me up." That night, I get a text from her, and we start talking. Within 10 minutes of texting, it feels off, but I just shrug it off. Next day, we get talking again, and suddenly she goes on a huge, extreme rant, racist, sexist, blaming Democrats for every issue, and talking about Trump. This was just before the election when he became president, like he was a deity rather than a person. Never been so shocked about a person's 180 before. In person, she was reserved and super sweet, but damn, I really underestimated how different people could be in public and in private. Obviously, I never talked to her again after learning what she was actually like. Story 5. Had a girlfriend during late primary school. Yes, I'm British. She was more the quiet type with a few close friends. And I had a lot of friends and hung out with a group of guys I still hang out with now. Wasn't really surprising as most of us were good friends since we were a class of 29. So anyway, she wanted to keep it secret. But then I started to notice some red flags. She would let this kid flirt with her. She said they were just friends. I was 100% positive he liked her. Few months later, school broke up and she spread our relationship. But she was playing out at the park behind my back with the guy. I always warned her, but she didn't listen. I was thinking about ending it, but she told me they were friends. I really liked her, but one day I couldn't take it anymore and tried to get her to stop hanging out with him. She ended things soon after. I was sad, but glad I didn't get cheated on. Later, she asked him out, but he surprisingly said no after falling for another girl in our small village. Me and that guy eventually ended up being close friends. I still respect him to this day. It's been 3 or 4 years since it all happened. Me and the girl still sometimes talk due to mutual friendships, but I still don't have much interest in her like I did back then. Not the best ending, but I ended up dating some other girls. None were really long-term. None lasted more than 8 months. One even coming out as a lesbian, which I didn't mind, but was surprised considering how she dated a lot of guys. Story 6. So, about a month ago, I was really lonely, and I still am, and I wanted a new friend in my life to talk to after school. I want to feel loved and as if I have someone who cares about me and that can also hang out after school. There was this new girl in school I was trying to be friends with and give her someone to talk to. At first, I liked her a little bit. I thought she was a good friend who shared a lot in common and cared about me, until stuff started happening. I gave her my number, but she never texted me, and later she said she forgot the slip with my number on it. Later, I got her number from a group chat we were in together and sent her a text. She immediately responded with, "I can't text you individually." I would try to talk to her, and she'd just move away or try to get me away from her, and she made it completely obvious that she didn't want me there. A while later, she told me she really wasn't interested in being my friend or anything close. She told me she was drawing a line so that I could meet other people, and that she does this with everyone, which I didn't believe was true because she'd always go and talk to everyone else all the time. But when I tried to talk to her, she'd ignore me or just give me a blank stare. I immediately threw away all feelings for her for being a fake friend, and now I act like she doesn't exist. What a piece of junk. There are 2 sides to every story on this one. Do you kind of get the vibes from this guy like he was trying to kind of stalk this girl a bit? Maybe his advances were a little too much for her to handle. Maybe she felt uncomfortable. Of course, it could be true that for some reason she just didn't feel for this guy the way he felt about her, and she was just trying to distance herself. Either way, it just doesn't feel like a connection was made at all.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 7. It's always hard to break up with someone because you're not interested anymore. Even though there's nothing wrong with that. Like he said, people change or don't. I was in a relationship with a girl after being forced out of a previous one due to social criticism from all friends and family about how much older she was with me. The new girl, my age, was all right. I was with her for a year and realized things I didn't like about her behaviors weren't going to change. I didn't like who she was and who she was turning me into. But she was on cloud 9 and was so upset when I ended things suddenly after a date by not following her inside. I did hook up with the previous lover soon after, but it was totally unrelated. The girl my age couldn't see past that and did everything she could to sabotage me. It didn't work because I didn't really restart the relationship with the previous lover, but I felt bad because I knew her pain. I left her lost out of nowhere because I couldn't give her the straight answer of, I plainly just don't like your personality anymore. I don't want a relationship to progress anymore. I still don't know how I should feel about the whole mess, or what I could have done to make her feel better other than staying in a relationship with someone I didn't like. I'm sorry, T, but it's not like I'm very much of a loss. Story 8. I have a story that's the reverse. I used to work at a movie theater way back in the day, and there was a coworker that I worked with. We got along really well. I consider myself a funny guy, and I made her laugh a lot. If you had asked me how I felt about her, I would have said that she was cute and really nice, but I didn't have an active interest in her. Turns out she had a crush on me. I didn't know this at the time, and her birthday came up one day, and I asked her how old she was. She told me, and it turns out she was only like 2 years older than me. I guess usually only 1 most of the year. And I made a light-hearted joke about her being over the hill, after exclaiming that she wasn't that much older than me, and I also make jokes all the time. Well, she didn't take it that well, and later on I found out that the joke is what made her lose interest in me. Also, at the time, I was a pretty lonely guy, and I did think she was cute. If I had found out that she liked me before, then maybe we could have made something work. You live and you learn. Story 9. Back in high school, there was this really good-looking blonde guy in my year that I shared half my classes with. He was funny, good at sports, and very popular. He also lived not too far from me, so we started walking home part of the way together. I hid my crush as I was shy and not as pretty like some of my classmates, but we had nice chats. Then one day, he seemed to change his whole personality overnight. He became standoffish and didn't want to talk to me anymore. He then started wearing long black plastic coats and stopped walking with me. I don't know why he did those things, but I both tried to support him and give him space. But it was when he dyed his hair from blonde to jet black that my crush on him finally died. I felt so bad for not liking him anymore because of his hair, but I'm happy that 20 years on, he seems to be doing better now. Kids at that age go through all sorts of stuff. They can change their looks radically based on what they are feeling. I'm trying to remember when I was a kid and I wanted to try something different with the way I dressed or the way I did my hair. Sometimes that comes with a personality change. It's good that they still get along 20 years later, even if they're not dating. Story 10. I'm very socially anxious due to harassment I suffered a year before in my school. But instead of dealing with my issues and healing, I chose to ignore it and met a crush some months later in another school. I forced myself to be extrovert due to fear of being labeled weird. But one day, I confronted someone about his behavior, and this person raged at me and name-called me. The worst part is my crush with her friends joined the insults and called me all kinds of names. Drunk, abnormal, etc. Even the harassment I faced in my previous school was not as painful. I was extremely hurt, and my social anxiety flew to the sky. It's my love for this person that prevented me from insulting her, but despite having forgiven her, my pain was so strong that I couldn't tolerate her presence anymore, and I left and promised myself to never see her again. Story 11. Had a small crush on this pretty cute girl. Saw her a few times, and this was also the first day I got to the school. Once lunch came, I sat with someone I decently knew, and next thing I know, the girl comes and starts yelling at me for being in her seat. Immediately lost interest. And she started to shame me for my weight and laughed at me when I did stab myself with a pencil in my side. It really messed with me, as I was extremely messed up about it already from earlier bullying. I had to leave the damn school because she started to turn people against me by saying I was a lesbian. Being true, but she didn't know, and that's also how I learned many people were homophobic there too. Story 12. I confessed to her, and she rejected me because I was overweight back then. It kind of broke me a little, as I wouldn't have thought of her as superficial. We ended up in different classes when we got into grammar school, and I worked out all summer long as kind of a therapy for my broken heart. It did me well. I met my first girlfriend in my new class, and suddenly she was all jealous and tried to convince me into going out with her instead of my current girlfriend. I almost agreed, but pride, reason, and the memory of my month-long heartache provided a clear judgment, so I rejected her. Dodged a bullet on that one, as she became infamous as the most toxic girl of the school. Story 13. This happened a few months ago. I would be the only one to start conversations. She never irons her clothes and always looked like a mess. And to top it all off, she was the type to ensure that she wins an argument whether she's wrong or not. She also accused me of being homophobic, despite explaining to her that people who are homophobic discriminate against members of the LGBTQ, which I don't do. That was the last straw because I almost lost one of my friends because of this. My friend was bisexual. She also was very selfish and always made fun of others for the dumbest reasons. Story 14. Had a huge crush on this girl through high school. About a year after graduation, I finally had enough self-confidence to ask her out. I was stoked when she said yes. When I went to pick her up, however, her parents answered and said, "She's not here right now," and invited me in to wait a few minutes. About an hour later, a car pulls up. Another guy walks her up to the door. They chat a few minutes until they kiss and he leaves. To quote Marlin from Finding Nemo, "Good feeling is gone." Story 15. I noticed that she was drawn to and embarrassingly flirty towards gym bod-built men, toned muscles, defined abs, that kind of thing, and had a history of dating that physical type. The relationship's not lasting long either, due to the guys having little going for them otherwise. We all have our own wants and desires. I had a crush on her because she was smart and had a fun personality. But when I realized how superficial she was about a lot of things, including what I just described, those feelings vanished. Story 16. This happened in middle school. During summer break, me and my best friend at the time got into a petty argument that escalated quickly, and we ended up not being friends anymore. When we got back into high school, my crush at that time, who was one of my friends, went and tried to date my ex-best friend after I told her that we aren't friends anymore and things of that nature, which killed 100% of my interest. But I wanted a girlfriend, so I asked her out, and she said I was too chubby and smiled too much. I was around 5'9", 214 pounds, and was able to run a mile in 12 minutes with ease. Story 17. I had a crush on this one boy that I thought was a teenager because I was told he was the same age as me by his parents, only to find out by his brother that he was 12, and being a responsible person, I immediately distanced myself from him and made it clear to everyone that I was way older than him, and it wouldn't be appropriate for anything to happen between us. The weirdest part was that his mother just let me, a teenager, to crush on him without supervision. However, to be fair, a lot of teens, myself included, look older or younger than they really are, depending on height. But still, what the hell? Story 18. Thought this one girl was cute back in high school. Told her I liked her hair. She told me she liked my personality. I joined the creative club to pretend we had matching interests. At club meetings, she would tell stories about her craziest acid trips. After sharing one of those stories, she shared one of her favorite moments from Mormon camp. I was non-religious but a rule follower, so I knew both of these wouldn't work, but ended up becoming friends, and 8 years later, we still talk from time to time. Story 19. This happened to me in middle school. Had a crush on a girl and all that. During English class, my friend asked if I was into her, and I said, yeah. Lunchtime rolls around, and he tells her, "I know who likes you," and I was her second guess. She came from across the cafeteria to tell me she wasn't interested. Got my poor little 13-year-old heart broken. Haven't really had a crush since. Oh, and curse you, Tyler. I don't care if it was 9 years ago. I'm still mad.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.